you finished Havdalah. You don't leave the fire on. Why shouldn't you leave the fire on? Because then it looks like you lit the fire for some other purpose, right? So we're just quoting from the Yalkut Yosef, because we're going to get soon into the laws of Havdalah. So he says it's appropriate to extinguish the fire after Havdalah, that it should be recognizable that it was only lit for the purpose of Havdalah. How do you show that it was only lit for the purpose of Havdalah? Is that if you extinguish it afterwards, if you leave the fire on afterwards, so maybe it looks like you did it not for the mitzvah of Havdalah, the mitzvah of lighting the fire. Maybe you did it for some other purpose. You wanted light, you needed light in the room like any other day. You need light in the room, you lit a fire. But we want to show that this is unique, that this was done for the mitzvah, to commemorate that on Saturday night, on Motzei Shabbat, on Saturday night, when the world was created, the first Saturday night, Adam was created on Friday. On Saturday night, he rubbed two rocks together and he brought out fire from the two rocks. So we want to commemorate that and to remember that a great thing that happened. They brought fire that he was able to bring out fire from the rocks. And we want to praise Hashem who gave that ability. And we say the bracha, bracha ta Hashem Malkeinu Melech Haolam Borei Moreh Ha'esh. So therefore, we want to show that we're doing it for that purpose. Then we extinguish it after we finish the Havdalah. We don't leave the fire going, we extinguish it. And he says, there's a question, is it appropriate to blow out the fire or not to blow out the fire? So says it's better not to blow out the fire with his mouth, even though I saw Rabbi David Feinstein of blessed memory, he actually blew out the fire after the Havdalah. I presume it's a Pi Kabbalah, better not to blow out the fire. Some use the wine that had overflowed from the Havdalah kos. Some use that wine to extinguish the fire. But he says many people are not careful regarding not to blow it out. So many people do actually blow it out, like Rabbi Feinstein actually did blow it out. And they have what to rely on if they use their mouth, if they blow it out. This thing is not mentioned in the Gemara at all. The Gemara doesn't say anywhere that you can't blow it out. He says over here, let's say you have a fire within this is the Yalkut Yosef Kishachana Siman regarding the laws of Havdalah that we're going to be getting to in our Gemara. We're on Nun Beis and Aleph. Let's say you have a fire within a glass container. It's covered by glass. We're going to see you're not supposed to say a bracha on such a fire because the glass separates between the flame and the person. So that's what he says. And he says you shouldn't say a bracha on an electric light. You shouldn't say a bracha because you don't see the flame. It's like a glass filled with light. He says even if you have no other light, just the electric light, he says you should not say a bracha on them. He says therefore the gabbai of the synagogue should be very careful to make sure there's wax candles or oil in time of Havdalah in order that they have to say a bracha on. They should fulfill the mitzvah properly. Now, we said before, what happens if the guy doesn't have a fire? I don't have a candle. So you say Havdalah without the candle, and later on in the evening, when you're able to have the fire, you make it later on in the evening when you get the fire. That's what he says. If you didn't have a candle at the time you had Havdalah, then you got a candle. You're able to say the bracha of Borei Mara'ish the whole night. But in the morning, once the morning came, you cannot say the bracha of Borei Mara'ish. You cannot say the bracha if you missed. If you didn't have the fire the whole night, let's say 2 o'clock in the morning, you got a hold of a candle. You could say Borei Mara'ish on the fire at 2 o'clock in the morning. But once the morning came, the only time you could say bracha is Saturday night, because Saturday night that's when he brought the fire out from the stones. So therefore, you only could say it's Saturday night.
You can use matches also,
Right. So I'm saying you technically that you did a fire, right? That you right, exactly. But it's nicer to use a candle. It's more honorable. You're doing it in a, always you want to do a mitzvah in a nicer way. But technically, if a person would light a match in the morning, Albert, that you did a light. So number one, supposed to have, we said, best to have like an avuka, supposed to have like a torch, like multiple wicks together. So therefore, you don't want to just make on a match. But if the guy is stuck, he doesn't have a candle, just has the match. Then he'd be able to say the bracha on the match.
I was struggling. We lost the candle, so I called the rabbi to use a match. In Ghana,
He said use the match. What did he say? Use two matches. Use one match. What did he tell you to do? Two matches.
Yeah, just in case.
Okay. So
two matches.
okay. So what we'll see, we're going to have in the Gemara, if let's say you have a candle that the Gentile lit on Shabbat, for Goy lit the candle on Shabbat, and it's still going after Shabbat. He lit a candle, and the candle was still, let's say he lit a 24-hour candle, and he lit it on Shabbat. I cannot say a bracha on that candle. We're going to see more about, we had in our Mishnah that let's say a candle that was lit in honor of a mate, in honor of a dead body, or a candle that let's say they lit in the house of Shiva, you cannot say Borei Mara'ish on that candle because that was not lit for the purpose of light. It was lit in honor of something else. Okay, so let's take a look at the Gemara. We're going to the Gemara on Nun Beis Amud Aleph, 52a. 2 lines from the top. The Savri Beis Shammai. You have it, Marish? 2 lines from the top?
Yeah.
Nun Beis Amud Aleph. Keep it 2 lines from the top on 52a. Savri Beis Shammai. The Beis Shammai hold the Birkat Hayom Adifa. Beis Shammai hold that the bracha of the day takes precedence. That means, what does Beis Shammai say in the Kiddush Friday night, and similarly the Kiddush of Yom Tov? How should you say the Kiddush? Beis Shammai says you first talk about the day. You first talk about the day. After you talk about the day, then you say the Geffen. The Borei Geffen, according to Beis Shammai, comes at the end. And according to Beis Hillel, the Borei Geffen comes what? In the beginning. Tosfos asked an interesting question. If you'll notice, when you do Birkat HaMazon, what do you do by Birkat HaMazon? You say, after you do the Birkat HaMazon, you say the Geffen afterwards. Why do you say that? Meaning, why is it that by Kiddush and Ha, Beis Hillel says, you say the Geffen first, and then you're holding the cup in your hand, you say the Borei Geffen, and then you say the Havdalah. And yet, by Birkat HaMazon, what are you doing? You say Birkat HaMazon, and then you say the Geffen. When you have a cup of wine, you say that you say the zimun over the cup of wine, but you don't say the hagefen. When does the person say the gefen? After they finish the birkat hamazon, and the leader who finished the birkat hamazon, then he said, then he says the bracha and drinks the wine.
You divide about it. This week you wrote, people don't really do it. And then 3 people doing that wine, it's a normal thing.
Oh, very good.
So you speak out of what is that?
Right. Based on our Gemara, that we,
That's true, though, that's
it's ideal. It's ideal. You don't need to.
Part ready?
We have our good friend Rabbi Yitzchak, the Kitzur Chanarach, the Yalkut Yosef, and we'll take out our good friend, and we'll see the language of our good friend, right?
No.
So he says, Dini Birkat Hamazon, Simikuf Pei Gimel. We'll see what he says. He says the following. He says, the minhag in most places is that we do not use a cup of wine when we say Birkat Hamazon, even when you have 3 people there, right? Even when you have 3 people, the custom in many places is what? In most places is they do not use a cup of wine. Is that correct, Morris?
No.
However, the people that have a custom to be concerned to the ones that require a cup of wine when you have 3 people, tavo aleihem bracha. He says that the people who are concerned for the opinion that says that you should use a cup of wine when you have 3 people, should come upon them a bracha. Meaning to say that if you look back at that email, Morris, you'll see that we did not say it's a requirement. We didn't say it's. I think we said it's something special, something very good. Because I think the Chafetz Chaim, because if you look back at the language of the Chafetz Chaim regarding this mitzvah, I think the Chafetz Chaim says that definitely it's ideal to go ahead and use a cup of wine for zimun. You don't need to. The Chafetz Chaim, you see, the Chafetz Chaim says, he says the following. I'm reading you the language of Chafetz Chaim in Simon Kuf Pei Beis. He says, well, and it's really quoting from the Ramah, the Ashkenaz rabbi. Ashkenaz rabbi says, after the Shulchan Aruch brought 3 opinions regarding whether you need a cup, you don't need a cup, when you need a cup, he says, nevertheless, it's definitely ideal. It's a mitzvah min hamuvchat to use a cup of wine. It's definitely something unique. You not have to, you don't need to. At least the Ashkenaz rabbi clearly says that it's definitely something great to do. You're not obligated to do. And even in the Yalkut Yosef, he says, those people who do it, tavo aleihem bracha. That's a nice thing. If you, I would like a bracha to come upon all the Jewish people. So that's what. Yes.
So just like Morris and his wife, I'm making an example, goes to visit his brother,
Right.
and his wife. Do they mix separate?
No. We need 3 men.
They will make, each one will say Birkat Hamazon separately.
Yeah.
But they won't. They don't do a zimun. They don't call out to each other because they need a minimum of 3 people.
Okay.
So if they would have 3 people, then they would do the Birkat Hamazon pretty much simultaneously. That answer your question, Akiva? Morning, Avi. Every minute counts. Okay, so now we're gonna remember. The Vilna Gaon said that every word of Torah is a mitzvah. And people speak about 200 words a minute. So 5 minutes is 1,000 mitzvot. How do you like that? Not bad, right, Avi? So therefore, that's why Talmud Torah kineged kulam. Why is it equal to all the mitzvot? Because look how many mitzvot you get when you're learning Torah. You get thousands of mitzvot. based on depending how much time you put in. It's all about the time. But the time, and it's about the quality of the time when you learn it.
Yeah.
Two things. Okay. Avi, we are on Nun Beis Aman Aleph, 52b, 52a. The Sari Beis Shammai, the Birkat Hayom Adifa. Beis Shammai seems to indicate that the blessing on the day is Adifa, takes precedence over the blessing of the wine. You need the order, and you ever hear the expression order of business is important. The order you do first you talk about the Shabbat. First you make the say the blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'asavanu v'Shabbat chadshah ba'avros l'chilonu zikaron l'masav reishis kuyom tchila mikroy kodesh zeich l'siyat mitzrayim. You say that whole Baruch atah Hashem mekadosh Shabbat, and then you say Savim Maranan. Then you say Baruch atah Hashem melech haolam bor prei gefen. That's the opinion of Beis Shammai. The gefen comes later. You need to honor the day first. Why does the day come first? So one opinion, one reason Beis Shammai says is because why am I having the wine? It's like, so it's someone's birthday. That's why we're celebrating today. It's their birthday, Mazel Tov. Because it's what? Because it's Shabbat. That's why we're having the wine. So that's why we bring in the wine out. So we should talk about the Shabbat first. We should give a toast to Shabbat first before we say a bracha b'rei gefen. That is one of the reasons of Beis Shammai. What the Gemara is now doing is the Gemara is challenging and questioning. We seem to have an apparent contradiction in the opinion of Beis Shammai. We have our Mishnah that says Beis Shammai says you got to talk about the holiness of the day first, which is not the way we do. We look by Hillel, we first say the gefen first. And the Gemara's question, we have another place which seems Beis Shammai indicates that the gefen comes first, not the holiness of the day. You don't talk about the day. First, you got to talk about the wine. You have to say the blessing on the wine. That's going to be the apparent stira, contradiction of the opinion of Beis Shammai, and the Gemara is going to try to understand. So, what is the opinion of Beis Shammai? If I have one Mishnah says one, a writer says that, I need to know what's going on. What's going on? So that's what the Gemara says. V'latanya. 3 lines from you got it from the top, Avi. 3 lines. We learned it right. The hanichnas lebeitzo b'motzei Shabbat. You come home Saturday night, Motzei Shabbat. What's the order of your blessings? First, it says you say Bor Prei Gefen first. Take out a cup of wine, say Gefen. You don't drink yet. You have the cup out, and then Ala Ma'or. Then Beis Shammai said, this opinion said, then you say Borei Moresh. And we don't do it that way. But what do? We do Samim and then Borei Moresh. And what does he say you should do first? Borei Moresh. And everything has a reason. There's no such thing as random. No such thing. If he said Aish first, he has a reason. Ala Ma'or. And then Ala Samim. And then you say Borei Moresh Samim. And then the Achakaf, the last thing you do is Oma Havdalah. The last thing is you say the blessing that talks about so you talk about the day at the end. You don't talk about the day in the beginning. And to be continued after davening. Yosef, they're about to say the Shema. They're saying
Doesn't want to listen to
that's what we're going to be. Yosef, if you want to listen to the Slichot, Kiva can put it on for you right here.
Thank you.
Oh. You're on your head. It's time to pull the.
I'll just leave it over here.